I just want to share with y'all a little incident that happened to me, another incident that happened to me dealing with West Virginia State Police when I was younger. I mentioned in my book about the time our house got broken into and two state troopers came over, and that's what started me down that idea, that lifestyle. But anyway, with that idea, but anyway, this happened when I was 18, so this would have been the summer of 1987. I was working for a local masonry company. I was a bricklayer, brick and block layer, and it was summertime, like I said, early in the morning, and probably right about around daylight because we were starting not long after daylight because it was getting pretty warm around. I think this was probably in June, but I can't remember the exact month. It's the beginning of the summer, I'm pretty sure of that. But anyway, I went out to get something out of my car, and mom and dad owned 22 and a half acres. And if you looked out Buck Hill Road, if you looked north, the property ran all the way out to a really sharp turn and then went up a hill to a subdivision that had been put in. And I noticed when I went out to get something out of my car, I just turned around and I glanced out the road and I seen someone walking, which was kind of odd back in 1987 on my road. Yeah, there was a subdivision that had went in up behind us. However, that subdivision didn't have a lot of full-time people living in it. It's more of an out-of-state thing, but there was a few. But you rarely ever see anybody walking on Buck Hill Road, even up until my late teens or whatever. You didn't see too many people walking. Usually, if they were walking, they were broke down, more likely. So I see this guy walking out the road, or more or less staggering, and he's all the way out near the turn, and he's just shuffling along. He's got his head down, and it's kind of like he's shuffling along like he's either drunk or he's hurt or something. I don't know what the hell's wrong with this dude. So I walked inside. Mom and Dad were sitting there at the kitchen table. Dad was trying to finish up his coffee, and Mom and Dad were trying to finish up their coffee before they left for work for that morning. And I said, "Yeah, there's some guy walking out the road. I don't know what he's doing, but he's coming this way." And I said, "I don't see no cars anywhere in sight broke down, so I don't know what's up with this guy." So I walked back outside and I'm watching this guy, and he's getting closer and closer to the house. So now it's probably about 15 minutes later, and now he's probably still, I don't know, 150 yards from the house or so on the road, and you can tell he's really struggling. He's shuffling his feet. He's not moving very fast. And I told Mom and Dad earlier, well, the first time I went in, I was like, "Hey, I don't know who this guy is, but he's got a red shirt on." Well, as I noticed, he got closer to the house. We had 4 gardens when I was growing up. 3 of them we normally planted, and sometimes we would plant the fourth one, or it was on Dad's property, but sometimes Dad's one brother would plant a garden. The fourth one, we'd till it up, plow it up, or whatever, dist it up for him, and he'd plant it. So this guy was at the end of our garden right beside the house, and it's probably a little over an acre size garden. And now he's probably, I don't know, maybe 50 yards from the house, 75 yards from the house, and I could see him a lot better. And I'm like, "So what the hell's wrong with his shirt? It's red, completely red from his neck down to his waist. Like, something don't look right." And I noticed his arms was red, and I'm like, "Well, that's kind of odd because I don't think he'd have a long sleeve shirt on in the summertime." And then as I watched him for a few minutes, I realized, nah, that wasn't a shirt. It was blood, wet and dried blood. He was covered in blood from basically his nose down, or somewhere around on his face, mid level of his face, all the way down to his waist. He didn't have no shirt on, and what I thought was a red shirt was just blood. And it was actually, he'd been severely attacked, and I didn't know this at the time, but I went back in and got Mom and Dad. I'm like, "Hey, this guy's out here getting close to the house, and he's covered in blood. I don't know what's up." Guy was probably in his late 60s, early 70s, somewhere around there. We had his old metal lawn chair there at the house. And as the guy got closer to the end of the garden, which was right near the edge of the house, Dad tells me, "Hey, get that lawn chair there and set it over in the yard there. I'll see if he wants to sit down." So I grabbed the lawn chair and set it out in the yard. And as he gets to the edge of the yard, says, "Mister, won't you have a seat there? Tell me what's going on." And the guy's like, "Sir, I appreciate it, but if I sit down, I'm going to die." He said, I can't sit down. I know I'm going to die if I sit down. So Mom, I think it was Mom, ran back in and called. I don't think we even had 911 back then, but she called for an ambulance. An ambulance came over. And I couldn't tell where he was injured. He was coated in leaves and dirt and shit and sticks, and had blood all over him. He looked horrible. Honestly, never thought he'd live. So they rushed him to the hospital. It wasn't too long after that. I had to leave, so I guess I really didn't interact too much with the troops on this call. But Mom and Dad stayed there a little bit longer, and the state police showed up. And they went out the road to about where, I think maybe I was there for a few seconds when they showed up. I told them where I seen him, then I had to leave. I didn't get to stay there, though, while they were talking to Mom and Dad much, because I was already getting late for work. My boss didn't like you being late. But anyway, Mom and Dad told the troopers where we first, where we first noticed the guy, where I'd noticed him, and I'd told them briefly. They went out there, and they found out that he had been thrown out of a vehicle or dumped off the side of Buck Hill down over the right side going north on Buck Hill, which we own both sides of the road. And the right side of the road was very steep. I mean, it was like this, all the way down to the stream, probably, I don't know, 200 yards down to the stream or something. It was hard to even stand in places out there. It was so steep, you had to hold on the trees. And I got back home from work and I found out, Mom and Dad told me that state police went out there and they had taped off the area and searched it for evidence. Well, come to find out, there was a kid that I went to school with. I think his first name was Terry, I believe. And he had been a troublemaker when we were in school. He was always starting fights and getting his ass kicked or whatever. He had a big mouth. And apparently him and another boy, well, I say boy, 19, 20-year-old, which was my age at the time. I was 18. They had been over at the Pikeside Bowling Alley, and they met this old man over there, and I guess they were shooting pool with him, talking to him. And they asked him if he could give him a ride home or give him a ride somewhere. And I guess they told him, we don't have a car or a car broke down or whatever. Can you give us a ride? And he was a nice old man. I guess he kind of felt sorry for him. So he's like, yeah. Well, they got into his truck. Not that his truck was anything fancy. It wasn't a piece of crap, but it wasn't a new truck. It was a few years old. And they started down the road. And at some point, I don't know exactly where it was, but at some point they got the old man, I guess, to pull over. It may have been out there at Mom and Dad's out there near the turn. They might have pulled over on the side of the shoulder because there was wide enough area you could park a car real quick. And they robbed the old man. Used a machete to rob the old man. And they cut him from his stomach up to here, and then they cut him horizontally across the stomach. Honestly, couldn't see the cuts because he was just covered in blood and leaves and dirt and sticks and shit. You couldn't tell where he was cut at. You knew he'd been injured badly. And they threw him down over the bank there and left him for dead, and they stole his truck. I think the state police found the truck down at Back Creek Bridge, which was just a couple miles, like another mile and a half down Buck Hill Road. I think they had abandoned the truck down there. I don't know if they got it stuck or what, ran off the road or tried to go somewhere they shouldn't have and got stuck or what, but they abandoned it. And the one boy that I went to school with, Terry, I guess they talked to the old man. He must have been able to give him a description of the two guys. He didn't know them. I don't know if he even knew a name, but he gave him a really good description. And later that morning, it was a law enforcement officer was going down 45 near the Arden area, and he encountered an individual walking along the road. And this individual had blood on him. And it was that boy Terry. Ended up arresting him, and he had, I think it was like $25 that they had stolen off the old man. The old man's name was Beamer. I can't remember. I think his first name was Harry, but his name was Beamer. And they had robbed him of like $25 and carjacked him. And then he keep the truck. They ditched it just a mile or two down the road for $25 and left him for dead. And Mr. Beamer, actually, he lived. He did call Mom. I remember Mom and Dad talking a couple times to him, let him know how he was doing and thanking us for everything we did. But that was a weird morning. Definitely a weird morning.